Are you ready to get philosophical?
I fucking love this shit.
Beautiful listeners, you are worth all the stars in the sky.
Hell yeah.
And at least 2 perfectly cooked grilled cheeses.
Hell yeah. Does a bear shit in the woods?
Sometimes. He's been known to shit in a liquor tent. Yeah, pick up a book, losers.
Pick up a book, losers.
Welcome to the Based Banter Podcast.
What's up, everybody? This is another episode of the Based Banter Podcast. I will be your host today. My name is Joey, and with me, as always, is my co-host, Jerry. Jerry, give everybody a what's up.
What is up, everybody?
All right, guys. You know, today I have a very heavy and deep intellectual topic for you, and I cannot wait to get this one off my chest because I have been like a madman sitting in the lab trying to put together all these stories and figuring out what the fuck is going on.
Over the week, we've been talking about getting lost in the sauce and just getting completely absorbed by like an interest or a topic.
Yes,
and I
sir.
think that's where you're at, buddy, right? You've kind of been completely indulged by this.
Dude, I've been following this topic for years. It's been something that I have been intrinsically fascinated with since I was a little kid. One of the first books I ever checked out from the library was the Bermuda Triangle, of all things, right? And, you know,
we don't hear too much about it anymore.
We don't hear about the Bermuda Triangle. It's not a problem anymore, right? But that's a thing.
Because they nuked it. The government took care of it.
They killed Godzilla, so now the Bermuda Triangle's not a problem.
I believe it.
But
That's
headcanon. before we dive too far down the Bermuda Triangle rabbit hole, what have you been up to here lately?
Oh, buddy, man. I have just been trying to focus on myself and do a lot better. Been focusing on some writing, producing. I have also been doing some bowling, right? Trying to legitimize bowling as a sport because some people don't think it as a legitimate sport.
Well, those people can fuck all the way off because, dude, anything that you do as a pastime that doesn't hurt other people and is your hobby and brings you joy, I support that shit.
And there's a lot of athleticism that goes into bowling. And one of the biggest things that I think helped me is that, okay, so I have a bit of a bowling coach, and he was telling me that, whenever I do a release, I have to relax my thumb. And he was trying to say, okay, well, now that you got this new ball, kind of expect your average to go down. You'll probably have some bad games. And he's like, it takes, like most people, around about 500 games or so.
500 games? God damn.
To fully get the muscle memory of not squeezing or pinching the ball with your thumb. And buddy, let me tell you this. So this was going to tie back into professional wrestling, but I shot one of the best series with my new ball that I have ever shot. And I'm just like, okay, I think I got something here. But what that ties into with professional wrestling is professional wrestling requires you to have this innate sense to where your body is at all times. And if you are doing something wrong, you need to make these little adjustments to where either you're going to fall safe or something along the lines of looking the part. You know what I mean? You know what I'm getting at?
Right. You got to fake it till you make it. You got to do what it takes. You got to get that technique down, man. You got to feel it out. Feel it in your bones. Yeah, man. That's awesome, dude. I love that for you. I love that you have that whole thing.
That was a bit of a tangent, though. So what about you, though, buddy?
You know, man, I've been, I started writing a new novel, since I've went so far down this rabbit hole in all this esoteric information that I've been getting. I've been inspired to write a story about remote viewing and telepathy, and I want to make it a horror story about a 10-year-old girl. Her name's Annie, and she is a telepath, and that's going to touch on the topics of, what happens when the voice in your head is no longer your own.
So, hold on. I was going to ask you a question before, like I had it loaded, but then you hit me with that at the end. I'm like, okay, all right, that's a good hook. You got me. But I wanted to ask you, though, to define for our listeners that don't know what remote viewing is, because I'm pretty sure this isn't as commonplace as it is, like for you and I, than it is for everybody else. So what is remote viewing?
I'll do a brief synopsis of remote viewing because I do want to do an entire episode on that at some point. But basically, remote viewing is a technique used by individuals who are trained, because anybody can do it. They're trained to be able to astral project themselves into a plane of existence or an alternate dimension, if you will, for lack of better terms, and view locations, events, and times. And they do this with pinpoint accuracy, and it's been proven. The government has declassified programs called the Stargate program, where they basically had trained up some individuals to find and locate specific locations and spy on other companies and other organizations, like the Russians, for instance.
Right, and to get up to speed on this topic, right, because I just didn't want to be completely blindsided. I want to do my own research on it. One of our sitting presidents, Jimmy Carter, went on to say that he used this program and used remote viewers to find like downed planes and stuff, and they was able to like tell him exactly the spot, and they went in and they found it. So that's freaky. That's freaky that a president, like a sitting president, just like, yeah, we use psychics to locate this plane, and they was right.
And to me, I think as fascinating as it is, it can also be horrifying, right? The fact that somebody can be watching you right now in this moment without you knowing it, without using any technology, is a terrifying experience, and which is why it inspired me to write this book. And I just want to give you a little bit of the first paragraph, not even the first paragraph, but the first few sentences from this book to kind of help set the tone of what this book is about. So essentially, the first thing written in this book, it says, "If you hear a whistling in the woods, no, you didn't. If you hear somebody calling your name, no, you didn't. If you hear or see something that is unexplainable, no, you didn't." And we're local to the Appalachian Mountains, where that is a common phrase, where you close your blinds at night. You don't go outside into the woods at night because something is out there. And that's something we might talk about today in this episode.
Yeah, buddy, because you're hosting this one. You're hosting this doozy of an episode.
Yes, sir. And for you and for all of these listeners, I do have this great and juicy topic following the release of the Age of Disclosure documentary that was released on Friday, November the 21st of 2025.
Streaming on Amazon.
It's Amazon. It's Prime Video. Dude, I watched about an hour and a half of this, and I listened to Dan Farah on the Joe Rogan podcast, which I sent you the link to that podcast as well, because
and that was a bit of my research into this topic. So I listened to that whole thing, and I have some notes for that too. I would like to get into that at some point.
Dude, holy shit. First of all, when I first got introduced to a lot of this, it was with the Bob Lazar podcast on Joe Rogan, and some of the things Bob Lazar was saying fucking broke my mind because I didn't used to be this guy, right? I didn't used to be this conspiracy theorist, deep down in the rabbit hole, fucking lost in the sauce kind of guy who was buying into the UFO, UAP activity. I used to be like a normal person who was like, I'll believe it when I see it, right?
Were you deeply skeptic like I am?
I wasn't skeptic, but I was like, I need proof, right? And then I started seeing people who are reputable putting their reputation on the line, and then connecting all these dots from stories all across our history in America, and it led me to the conclusion that holy shit, dude, there's definitely something going on. And I've actually got a UFO story I'll share with you later on throughout this episode, where I've actually seen a UFO myself.
That's exciting, because you know what? A lot of people don't get to experience the thing that they are like so passionate about. Because I have seen like where some ghost hunters, right? Because a lot of people haven't seen no ghosts. No,
They ain't no ghosts.
They ain't no ghosts, and they ain't afraid of no goats.
I ain't afraid of no ghosts. Anyways.
I said goats.
Goats. Bad. That's bad. All right, yeah. But, you know.
But you got to experience the very essence of the thing that you have been sort of like hyper fixated on.
Well, once we revisit that story, you might change your tune as to how legitimate that my experience is.
Oh, shit.
First of all, it's not a very riveting story, but it is weird. It's a weird. it is a weird experience.
Story. Okay.
And I have a story my dad shared with me too, which I'll share later on. But to set the tone and to kind of go ahead and get us on the path for this topic, I have a timeline of events here I want to share with you, and I want to share with the listeners to kind of go ahead and give them, you know, a little bit of a breakdown of kind of what's been happening over the years in America.
Right, because this is an important perspective that you can have of where we are at now in our timeline of some information, right?
Right.
Okay. What you got, buddy?
For those who aren't aware, the Age of Disclosure documentary we referenced earlier is about the UAP, UFO phenomenon, where these unidentified crafts are breaching our airspace and causing a real national security.
What does UAP stand for the people that don't
Unidentified Aerial Phenomenon. And that's just a government language to take away the stigma from UFO, because it's the same fucking thing, right? But for this timeline, this goes all the way back to the 40s, right? This is 80 years of incidences that have been happening.
Whenever I think of the 40s, I think of Roswell. Are you starting with Roswell?
We got a little bit of Roswell,
We got a little bit of Roswell.
We got the Battle of Los Angeles, where in Los Angeles there was an unidentified aircraft flying over Los Angeles, and they unloaded over 1,400 artillery shells at this aircraft. And then you have the Roswell incident. Then it goes on to the 1950s.
Wait, hold on. We're not going to brush past that 1940s where they was just shooting up at the clouds.
We can revisit some of these topics, but I want to go ahead and paint a visible timeline for the listener at home so they can follow.
Okay, I'm following you now.
They can follow all the events.
I will save my comments for
Save
the
your
end.
comments. Try to remember some of these stories, because I want to revisit these, because I have all of these logged into my dome. And full disclosure, I don't have a bunch of notes in front of me. A lot of these topics and all of these stories I've been following for years.
He's that guy.
I'm deeply invested in this topic, dude. And, you know, I have this information locked and loaded and ready to go. So we've got the 40s.
1950s.
Now we're into the 1950s. We have a crashed UFO, and extraterrestrial bodies were recovered in Nevada. This was near Kingsman, Nevada. Then you go into the 1960s with the Betty and the Barney Hill story, where they were abducted by aliens, which is a famous story, by the way. Then you got 1970s, where Travis Waltman, his story is super famous and super infamous, where they made a movie about it called Fire in the Sky. Now you go into the 80s. Sightings are now increasing all around the world. And then you have Bob Lazar, who is this physicist who is now working on back engineering UFOs. Then you go into the 90s. You have the Virginia, Brazil UFO crash, where they recovered alien corpse, and an alien was on the loose, and the sightings were everywhere, and it became a big tourist trap. Now you go into the 2000s. There's actual American fighter pilots recording UFOs and UAPs with their instruments and UAPs. You've got the Go Fast, the Gimlin. You got all these other disclosed information that the government released. Then you go into the 2010s, which now you have the New York Times releasing an article about the Pentagon, who has released that information, right? They disclosed those 3 videos. Then you go into the 2020s, where we have the release of the Age of Disclosure documentary. What it seems like to me is, if you follow this trend in this timeline, we're approaching the confirmation and the analysis and the release of a statement that we are not alone in this universe. And if you watch the Age of Disclosure documentary, you'll see a bunch of fucking government officials all saying the same thing. We're not alone. We're not alone. We're not alone. We're not alone. We're not the most intelligent species in the universe.
Which has a bunch of implications surrounding it, because, all right, so I want to get into the what ifs, the hypotheticals in a moment, but in this interview that I watched that you had sent me the link of, this guy had talked about a potentiality, right? Because it's not confirmed. It's just the potential that there would be bases in the water, like oceans, not just like,
right,
just not like in a puddle. I'm talking about like bases in the water,
right,
because we have more detailed images of the moon than we have of the bottom of the ocean.
Right.
And that's not me playing like conspiracy theorist, because this whole side, dude, I'm going to be devil's advocate. I'm going to be on this other side, because even though you're starting to sway me a little bit, and I've heard this dude talk, and he's got some points. And
yeah,
dude,
Dan
makes me
Farah. First of all, if you're not familiar with who Dan Farah is, he's I think he's a producer for the Ready Player One movie with Steven Spielberg. So he's just a producer in the film industry who decided to follow this niche topic. And here he is creating one of the most groundbreaking fucking documentaries about possibly one of the most important events in human history.
And supposedly he was talking to a bunch of like government and military officials that were able to disclose some stuff, but a lot of what they could have said was classified.
Right, dude. Some of the shit we're going to talk about today is going to fucking blow your mind. And you've listened to the podcast, so you know some of the shit that I'm going to bring up.
It is some crazy shit, but before we get into it, I want to play that devil's advocate, and I want to bring up something so profound and maybe not as thought about as much, but are you familiar with Occam's razor?
For those who aren't, go ahead and give us a breakdown.
So that is a philosophical principle, problem-solving principle that emphasizes that simplicity in developing explanations and theories. So basically, Occam's razor is that oftentimes the most simple explanation is the right one.
Okay. How are we going to apply that today?
So that's what I wanted to comment on in the 40s, right? Before I so rudely interrupted you, is that they saw some shadow in the cloud and was like, you know what? We got to fire some artillery off of that thing.
That was, if you're talking about the Battle of Los Angeles.
That's it.
That's, right. There's photographic evidence of this object in the sky. I challenge you to research that and look at the actual pictures yourself. And yeah, sure, it's not impossible that they could have just misinterpreted a weird cloud and fired off artillery. 1,400 rounds, mind you.
How much of your taxpayer dollars went to that?
Right. No, dude, I'm not going to doubt that there is some human error in some of these instances. But what I will state is that there are some unexplainable shit that is undeniable.
So Albert Einstein, right, one of the world's most renowned physicists, he said everything should be made as simple as possible, but not simpler.
Right. What about the Go Fast video? Have you ever seen that?
I've not seen the Go Fast video.
Okay, buddy.
I've heard about it. That was mentioned on that interview.
Okay, so God, dude. So this fucking object.
Wait, is this the shadow people?
No. Yeah, the shadow people. No, the Go Fast video is this object which was recorded on an instrument in a fighter pilot's plane. They were running tests off the coast of California, and essentially they saw this object in the sky, and it was hovering over, I think they said, like 12 feet above the water of the ocean surface. And on their instruments, once they finally locked onto it, they documented that it was going 40,000 miles per hour, right? Our fastest fighter jet can go, I think, 4,000 miles per hour.
I don't even think 4,000.
So yeah, it's 4,600, but
okay,
but whatever.
Is that right?
Yes, that's right.
He's got this on lock. He knows the numbers.
This is a lot of this information is going to be in the Age of Disclosure documentary. So if you just want to go and watch that yourself, you can find out a lot of this information for yourself. Well, our job here today is to give you commentary from the average Joe's point of view, right?
And maybe bring up a little discussion between us and
what's the implications, right? But the point that I'm getting at here is this object can go 40,000 miles per hour, right? In order for one of our fighter pilots to make a turn at 4,000 miles per hour, it takes the entire width of half of the state of Ohio to complete a turn, right? This object can stop on a dime and do a sharp 90-degree angle turn without slowing down or decelerating, and then re-accelerate back to 40,000 miles per hour.
But then you're taking the human element out of it, because if a person was in there, you realize there's only so many G's that a person can experience before they are just dead, like brain dead.
Yes, exactly. Which is why they are classifying these unidentified objects as extraterrestrial, right? These are not human origin devices or vehicles, rather. These are, or this is a form of technology that we don't have, we cannot replicate. Unless you've listened to that podcast and you've heard about how we've back engineered some of these crafts, because there is a UFO recovery program called the Legacy Program, where they have recovered some of these crashed and downed UFOs, and they have back engineered some of them, and they've even made some crazy ass claims stating that they're flying around in our solar system with these UFOs that they have recovered. How fucking insane is that to hear on a live podcast that there might be a dude from fucking Texas out there flying around in a UFO going to fucking Saturn, going to fucking Uranus, and that no one knows about it? The government is keeping this information from people.
Okay, I want to know, what are the implications of there being an extraterrestrial sort of life that's almost confirmed that has this amazing technology, this grasp of reality that we don't have?
So
because this has made me feel very existential, and has made me questioning a lot of things since learning about all this.
It's a heavy topic, and I think that the reason that a lot of this has been guarded and kept secret is because of these implications, right? The fact that humanity might not be the superior race, right? We might not be the top dogs, the alphas. And if we're not the top dogs and the alphas, then what are we? We're not predators. We're fucking prey, right? And if we're prey and everyone knows that, then you have that existential crisis that you mentioned. And then that all of a sudden breaks your foundations of beliefs, your religious foundation of your creator God putting you on this earth and being the supreme overlord. That's now being questioned, which I personally don't agree with. I think that religion is hand in hand with all of this. I think a lot of...
Okay, you're going to have to elaborate on that, buddy, because that is a big-ass claim. So where does it all tie in? Okay, draw me a Venn diagram, because on one hand you have these...
No, hold on. I'll break it down for you, and I'm going to use the Age of Disclosure documentary as a reference. There's a DOD operator in the Pentagon who was approached by Lou Alizano, who retired because he wanted to disclose this information, he had to make a choice, right? Either he sits on this secrecy and he's not allowed to speak to the media about what he's discovered, or he retires from his current position in the Pentagon and he goes public with the information he knows. He was approached by this DoD operator, and the DoD operator stated to him that you are doing the devil's work. These are demons in the sky. So what he's alluding at is that these entities, they're demonic.
Okay, so we can tie that to...
Okay. Okay. Break it down, buddy.
Yeah, because we can tie that to the same sort of experience that people had with the introduction of like different races, even of people that were from different countries, and they're just like, these are the devil.
Right, like Native Americans who saw white people for the first time.
The devil, the white devils.
The white devil, dude.
And they brought sickness and plague. You see what I'm getting at here?
No. You're touching onto something, and this is a great segue into the Virginia, Brazil incident, right? It happened in 1996, where a UFO was sighted by several individuals, and this UFO crashed in Virginia, Brazil, and three females witnessed this crash, went to the location. They saw a bipedal creature staggering, kind of like hobbling and wobbling around. They stated that it had big red eyes, a large head, and it had 3 horns on its head. And when they saw it, they took off running. Once they went back home, they reported that they had saw the devil.
I'm sure, because how else do you have to explain
How do you
that?
interpret something you don't fully understand unless you relate it to some kind of religious aspects?
But before we get too far away from this, I didn't quite understand the correlation between this and religion. So you were saying about devils and demons, but what about like a creator, like a god? Like, what is a god? I mean, that's a whole discussion, but like, where does that part tie in? If you give me the short of it.
If you want to play crazy guy and start trying to connect all these weird dots, you go all the way back to like the Book of Enoch, right? Where we mentioned in our 3-eye atlas,
where people was coming down from the sky, and
right. And then there was this whole race of a race of species from the sky who pretty much manufactured the human race, right?
Yeah, so that's one thing that was mentioned in that podcast, that interview, where he was saying the Book of Enoch basically, so he was saying it's kind of like a game of broken telephone. So after generations, I mean, sure, some of the original stuff gets lost, but he was saying that these beings were sort of like impregnating or kind of imposing some like DNA change to people.
Right. And they also liken that to, you know, kind of like the way that we interpret information might not be as literal as the information we're reading. When they say impregnate, they might actually mean altering the DNA, right?
Some GMO type stuff.
Yes, genetically modified shit. So that's where we're kind of looking at, like, you know, what the hell is actually going on, right? So when you talk about these alien species, I think it's important to note that, one, we have many different unidentified objects. There's a spherical object in the sky that has a cube in it. There's an object in the sky that looks like a tic tac. There's an object in the sky that looks like a fucking top, like a spinning top, right? Then there's an object in the sky that looks like a fucking squid.
And then there's another one that looks like whenever your grandmother's highly disappointed, but you don't know how to tell her that you were outside smoking dope.
That one I relate to the most. But on top of that, there's many different alien species. See, this is the part where I was like the most blown the fuck away, because in my mind, I had always interpreted extraterrestrial beings as the short 3 foot tall alien grays with the fucking big black eyeballs. That's not entirely all there is. There's more. There's at least 4 that are disclosed in the public domain, right? You have the praying mantis kind, which I think is the most fucking bizarre
And you
shit.
let off with that one? Now the other 3 are going to suck.
I don't give a fuck, dude. That one I'm so hung up on that I'm like, what? But if you think about it, insects are predominantly the most efficient one and the most common species on our planet. If you really think about it, insects outnumber humanity by a large margin, right?
And I know a little bit about this too, is that the number, like not the number, but the weight of all of the ants in the world outweigh all of the humans in the world.
Absolutely, dude.
That's crazy to think about.
Right, and
Little
praying
tiny
mantis are some of the most intelligent insects in our planet. Like, it's crazy to think that there might be a fucking alien species of bipedal praying mantises out there flying around in spaceships. What are their purposes? What are they doing? Are they abducting people and eating them? What the fuck are they doing? Like,
what's your reaction if you get abducted tonight?
Well,
you're just like, well, shit, I was just talking about you. Speak of the devil.
Oh my God, look at you. They'll probably erase my memory and I would never even know. But that's just one of the 4 species. The other one is this Nordic race of like tall, lean, blonde, humanoid type creatures, right?
What the hell?
These are kind of like the creatures that you would think about as like, I think of like elves, right? I think of elves when I think about this Nordic race. And this is the one I think we're probably more related to. I think this might be the Anunnaki.
Because
right?
why do they have hair? What's the point of hair?
Right. Then you have...
I say that as a bald man.
What's the point of hair? And shaves it all off. But
hell yeah. I feel seen.
But then you have the third one, which is your typical alien grays, right? You know, those are your 3-foot tall, gray-skinned, big black eyeballed, telepathic fucking species. And then you have the fourth one, which they mentioned was this small, tiny, like robotic fucking like AI kind of driven type species, but which could just be like a shell, which is here on a representation of a species farther away. So
kind of like an avatar?
Kind of like an avatar, for sure. Because, you know, we don't fully understand, you know, the concept of like traveling vast distances in the galaxy yet, right? So in our minds, to travel, you know, 1 light year, it would take several years.
Right. We had the great physicist that I mentioned earlier who calculated this amazing calculation, E = mc squared, saying that mass, the more mass traveling at the speed of lights, like you can't get mass up to that speed. So basically Einstein had said that's like Einstein's theory says that like aliens and shit can't exist because they can't go faster than the speed of light.
Right. But what Einstein hasn't figured out yet is how to bend the fabric of space and time, which brings me to the topic of this new form of travel, right? Where they're using technology we don't fully understand, and it's hard for some ape brains like ours, me and you, who are just average people, to fully grasp the concept of a specific element or a specific technology that allows you to move through space and time in a way that is essentially time travel, right?
And in that interview, he had mentioned that these crafts are somewhat in a bubble that sort of warp time and space.
Right.
And that's why every picture you try to take of a UAP, UFO, is distorted. Like, it doesn't look as clear as it could be.
Right. Right. Now, I think that... you know, we're dealing with electronical devices, right, which have their own limitations. You know, if you try, like he explained in that interview, if you try to take a picture of a fish underwater in the fish's domain, the fish's image will be a lot more clear. But if you come out of the water and you're above it, facing the surface, and you try to take a picture of the fish, then the fish is no longer as visible, right? So we have to think of it in a way that we haven't thought about yet. This is all new, groundbreaking shit where, you know, we have to try to understand this shit. And the biggest disappointment of all of this is the fact that there's a potential for our government to have been hiding a lot of this knowledge from us, right? Which is why
For what reason?
So
tell me, what do you think is the biggest reason why they would want to do that? So why would they want to control that information?
Right. So if you
us?
remember back whenever nuclear fusion and nuclear bombs were being produced, they tried to keep a lot of that secret. But with human will and, you know, of course humans are flawed, someone's leaked it. And as soon as it got leaked,
the Manhattan Project.
Well, as soon as it got leaked, it became public domain. This is the same thing with this kind of technology, right? So
basically, it is a matter of national security.
It's national security.
Okay, so then that brings me up to another point about that interview, is where he said that the technology that they have, the kind of spacecrafts they have, was kind of like placed in such a way to where we were able to obtain them.
Right. Sometimes they don't just crash into our planet. Sometimes they appear to be a form of like a donation. So I think my interpretation of that is that if we look at the 4 species of aliens that they talked about and pretend that that is accurate knowledge, right? That tells me that A, some of those species may not be passive. Some of them might be hostile. B, some of them might be working with us and wanting us to proceed and to have progress in our society. So they drop off this technology and let us dissect it and then learn from what they've given us.
Back engineer it.
Reverse engineer this and then grow. And then applicate that into your current society, which is where we get fiber optics. It's how we ended up with like fucking a lot of the things that we have. We don't even realize have probably come from alien spacecraft.
And that's something he was saying, was that some of these companies, I guess, either like bought their way in or just like have the know, and then they was able to provide this advancement in technology, such as the transistor. Right,
like Raytheon and Lockheed Martin. You know, a lot of these major corporations do have acquired crafts of their own, and they're back engineering of their own, and they're reverse engineering this technology. And this is going, once this information comes out, which it has to now at this point, too many people know about it, too many people are talking about it. If me and you are talking about it right now, then the general populace should have some kind of grasp of what's going on. So that means that they're going to have to break the glass on this. They're going to have to make a statement. So they're going to have to tell us, this is what's going on. This is what we've been doing. We've been looking into this for 80 years. We're trying our best to beat the Russians and the Chinese in this technological advancement.
And I gotta know, man, do you have any news stories that you'd like to share on this certain subject?
Breaking news, brought to you by the Base Banter Podcast. This is Base News.
Welcome to Based News. On today's episode, we have information on the documentary The Age of Disclosure. This is a new documentary stirring debate. A new documentary of The Age of Disclosure dropped in November 21st of 2025, claiming that there has been a decades-long cover-up of evidence for non-human intelligence. How intelligent are they? Not as intelligent as me.
In other news, the Pentagon's UAP office has resolved most cases, but one large orange orb is keeping them up at nights. The cosmos' last great riddle might just be a sunset reflection.
In other news, scientists are trying to recreate the dodo bird. They haven't made it so far, but give them time and Jurassic Park will be a reality.
And in other news, footage shown at a congressional hearing appears to show a missile striking an object off Yemen and just bouncing. The debate is now advanced tech or just terrible aim.
Random U.S.-wide oddities round up from odd news wires. A concrete-covered owl was rescued after falling into a cement mixer in Utah. Yes, this is a real owl. Yes, it fell into a mixer. Yes, it's still alive. This has been Based News.
Yeah, buddy. So, we've been talking a lot about some sort of species, some extraterrestrial type stuff, some things that I can barely comprehend, if I'm being perfectly clear with you.
Yeah, man, you know, this is a difficult topic to grasp because it does challenge your religious beliefs. It challenges your education you received growing up. You know, this is groundbreaking information, which is why when I sent you that podcast, I told you this is the most important podcast in the history of mankind.
No kidding. That's exactly how he prefaced it. And I was like, okay, well, I'll have to listen to this for the sake of, for us recording tonight. And little did I know, man, it would shake my own reality.
Right, because, dude, as someone who's been on the cusp and in the information loop for several years now, a lot of people are just like you, who are just getting broke in and are just now realizing the weight of this information. We really might not be alone in this universe. Sure, in your standard conversation group, we might discuss it. Oh yeah, there's probably aliens, but now we can talk about it with actual weight and evidence.
So what does it mean? What do the numbers mean, Mason?
What do the numbers mean, Mason? The numbers mean a lot. And it's very serious, right? It's a matter of national security. We have fighter jets performing training tasks, and there's UFOs or UAPs intervening and flying at Mach speeds in between fighter jets. There's UFOs and UAPs showing up on nuclear test sites, and they are activating and deactivating nuclear bombs. Right? There was an incident in Russia where a UAP appeared on a nuclear site and it activated a nuclear bomb and it pointed the bombs at the US, right? That is a serious national security threat.
So I've been reading this book. I haven't finished it yet. This book series.
You don't want to touch on that? That's a fucking heavy idea. Like, that's so crazy.
It ties in. This isn't distraction.
Okay.
This isn't distraction.
All right, I'll bear with you.
This is topical. So, this book series I'm reading is called Dungeon Crawler Carl.
Okay.
So, in this book, spoiler, not spoiler, this is kind of the preface of it, is that there is some alien species that is sort of playing this game with Earth. And they take all of like the matter on Earth and they make these dungeons, and Carl is fortunate enough to get to crawl through it.
Fortunate or unfortunate?
That's up for debate. But having read that here recently and be in the process of reading it and then learn about this sort of thing, to where I guess we get like the different countries get gifted these super advanced technologies. Like, how much of this is just a game?
Right, dude.
Like, how much of this is just them playing with us?
What
where it's
if?
Like, each country is like, okay, I see you have a government, you have a government. Okay, you each both get one of our crafts. Now do something with it.
Right. Here's a hypothetical for you, okay? Are you ready?
Hypothetical, I'm ready.
Here's a hypothetical for you. What if there's an intergalactic game show and all of these different alien species are just watching a TV show called Earth? And on Earth, they decide to do these little things where they shift the progress of humanity. They play a little bit of a role, and they fucking they just add a little bit of a variable here and there every once in a while to make things spicy and entertaining.
They're just like, if you think the USA will win, text USA to 99224. And they're just like, if you think Russia will win, text Russia to 99284.
Oh, yeah.
And they're just like, if you would like to make a donation to your favorite country, send your PayPal information.
It's American Idol for fucking the whole world.
Like, what
Dude.
if, though? Like, what if?
Dude.
Like, what if that's where we're at? And
They could be so far advanced that we're just puppets to them, right? You know, we're just playing to their tune and we're doing what they want and we'd have no choice in the matter, right?
I mean, I hope not. I hope there is more to this than being in a living terrarium or aquarium or just being in this fucking fishbowl that we're in.
Let me ask you this. How does that change your reality if the government was to come out tomorrow and make a statement and they were to say, hey guys, turns out we're all just fucking zoo animals for a greater advanced alien species that likes to show up and check us out and see how we're doing. That's all our purpose is, to check in on our progress and to watch how we evolve. And they want our gold. That's it.
Well, then my life changes, because then why do I still have to work and pay taxes?
That's just how our society is built. Just because you are a minute point in our society, look, dude, as important as me and you both are in this world, we are just a number, right? There's 8 billion people on this planet.
But there's only one Base Banter podcast.
And there's only one you, so like and subscribe and follow to keep the conversation going. But anyways, the point that I'm getting at is that, so what, dude? This is why this kind of a topic is as heavy and as gravitational as it is. It's not being talked about by a lot of people. You know why? Because society does not view this as important as their taxes, as their income, as their whether or not they're going to have food or Christmas presents. We have priorities shifted onto things that make a topic such as this feel minute. Sure, there's aliens.
Is that by design?
Sure.
Is that by design?
Who cares if there's aliens? Why is housing so expensive? Why am I being taxed so fucking much? Why are there so many homeless people?
Why are we so smart and able to create an abundance of living accommodations and create as much food as freaking possible? Like, why do we live in abundance, but there's so many people that do without?
Because, man, because there's evil in this world.
Evil.
Right. There's people who want to take advantage of other people. Because there's such a disparity between the upper and lower class. The gap between the two is so large that the upper class wants to take more of an advantage of the lower class.
So now we're zooming in a little bit. So at the start of this, we're kind of like a wide range of like, okay, well, here are these beings outside of Earth, and now we're kind of zooming into like our country, basically.
Right. Now, if you want to, this is what I hope comes from all of this, right? Personally, from Joey to you, what I would like to see,
and to your mother,
and to your grandmother, I would like
and
to
to
see
your grandmother's mother,
and to your great granny with her holes in her panties. I would like to see. I would like to see.
Like to see your mother.
Let me see them alien titties. Anyways,
all three of them.
I want to see. I want to see some tentacles. No, what I want to see is an alien race that's been watching over our progression, swoop in and take control of this corrupt leadership, and provide a leadership that is in favor of the general population, to progress humanity in a way that it is supposed to be going. Because what we're doing at this point in time, it isn't correct. It doesn't feel right. It feels like a manipulation. It feels like our own government and the elites are taking advantage through manipulation of information, through manipulation of labor, and exploiting many of the people involved.
So this is oh my goodness, this brings me to an amazing point, because there are many different political ideals, right? And I may butcher the pronunciation of this, but a techrocity, but it's basically where these people that sort of take out the human elements of things and try to figure out the most logical and scientific way to handle things. Basically what you're describing almost sounds like that, to where it takes out the human fallacy of it all,
right,
and just replaces it with, this is the order and system of how things go.
Right, because if you remove greed and pride, then you no longer have this one-sided indoctrinated path, right? Then the distribution of resources and finances is distributed equally, right? And then people are paid fairly, then resources are distributed fairly, and then you have an economy that promotes a fair exchange versus this one-sided, the elites are benefited and the lower and middle class are the backbone, right?
But the more I've learned about techrocity, and I'm still probably butchering it, but the more I've learned about it is that it still benefits somebody more disproportionately than everybody else, to where all these processes and systems that they have in place and these rules and this order, but then somebody benefits from it way more than the common people that contribute to it.
Now I want you to imagine you're that guy benefiting, right? You're the one who's exploiting everyone on planet Earth, and then a fucking supreme being, god, alien race shows up with a plasma ray gun, points it at your fucking skull and says, you can do better. And you fucking are forced to change society because this crazy reptilian race with fucking slits in its eyes and it can transform and shapeshift has now told you that if you don't correct your course, we will eliminate your species. You have to.
See, what you're describing sounds like what used to be law and order in our country, but now we no longer have that quote-unquote alien overlord to keep the people in power in check. So I guess I can understand this concept.
But right, so...
But that's getting very political. I don't want to get political.
It's political and it's philosophical, and it's one of those things that makes me think about how the ancient civilizations ran their culture and society in the olden days, right? They were able to achieve accomplishments that today we would not be able to achieve. Like if you look at the pyramids of Egypt, right? I think they did the math, right, to move each stone as much as each stone weighs. You know, it would have taken them so many years to do it. They said they did it in 20 years. So the math that goes into the creation of the pyramids doesn't add up with what we're able to do and how we calculate today.
Well, we don't have the slave power like they had.
That's not true, because think of every single human being.
Think of Amazon.
Think of Amazon. Think of every Amazon factory in America, and then think of all of those people producing packages and distributing them. No, I mean, if we wanted to, we could delegate these kinds of tasks to masses amount of people. We just don't have that kind of technology, right? We don't have the wherewithal, the economy, and the sociology behind getting that many people involved in a task as grand as that. So that's a foreign concept to us. So we liken that kind of a creation to, well, maybe the aliens fucking did it, right?
Maybe it was divinity.
Well, I'll liken this to this. There were some UFO and UAP crafts that were discovered, right? And on these crafts, they had hieroglyphic writings on them.
This was mentioned in that interview.
And this brings me to the conclusion that
Aliens.
what if the fucking the pyramids were built by aliens, right? What if the fucking greatest accomplishment of humankind was designed by an intergalactic species?
What if the Egyptians built the aliens and they lost control of them because they were so powerful and they were so good at building?
Oh my god, we built this crazy species and they've taken everything we own. Oh god.
What if? Because you've heard of Frankenstein's monster. What if aliens are just the Egyptians' monster? Look, now I'm out crazying you. What the fuck has happened?
That's just AI, buddy. That's all that is.
Oh,
that's
AI.
Just our new form of AI delegated back into thousands of years ago. Right?
Have you considered that we all could just be AI? We are all just living in a simulation.
Look, dude,
we're programmed to do certain things,
look,
and that's all we could do?
I don't know if you want to go down this rabbit hole or not, but I'm going to connect these two dots you just brought up.
Okay, we still got time.
So there are incidences where people who have come in contact with UFOs and UAPs have developed a sense of a superpower. I'll liken it to
superpower.
It's, for lack of better words, they call it remote viewing, and it's these people who have come in contact with UAPs. They have developed this ability, right, where they can astral project, and then they can visualize locations and items and details through their mind's eye, or your third eye, if you will.
Did we mention that in this episode or the other one? I had said about a sitting president talking about using psychics to find a downed airplane.
That might have been the previous episode we recorded, but I digress. The point is that the people who come in contact with these UFOs, they develop this kind of ability to be able to remote view, right? And it's kind of like a superpower. Dude,
it does sound like a superpower, and it does sound very science fiction. Some of
these anecdotal stories are fucking maddening, right? There's one story about a guy who's tasked with doing a remote viewing session, and he's giving a choice of a series of numbers. He randomly chooses one of the numbers. One of the numbers is the location of Mars set 1 million years in the past. And
that sounds like some bullshit.
It sounds like bullshit, but half the bullshit...
okay, you could give me any sequence of numbers and I could be like, oh shit, that was the coordinates of the Guatemalan forest 2,000 years ago because we were this point in space.
Unless you are an operative working on a highly funded secretive program tasked with the job of validating this whole program, and you're just fucking around and you figure out, hey, I'm just gonna see what this guy has to say, right? And then you just say, well, let's try to go back to Mars 1 million years ago and see what happens. And this guy comes back with actual information. Not only that, but this same guy has found your kitten that you've hid in a shoebox in your closet. He's also found your basketball that you hid in your neighbor's garage. He's also found the fucking needle that you put in a haystack.
That's just simple psychology. He would have known that a 14-year-old boy would hide his shit there. I want to know
the point that I'm getting at is a lot of this pseudoscience is backed by fucking verifiable evidence of through fucking tasks, right? And then you have, okay, sure, they found a downed airplane and the Jimmy Carter presidency fucking talked about it.
It's whatever.
But that same guy also says that he went to Mars 1 million years ago and saw AI technology and a humanoid race of beings trying to recolonize another planet because their planet was a dying planet, and we know that Mars once had an atmosphere.
Oh, that's just a trope. Dude, we as humans have written this trope many times. We know a good story. That's a good story, brother.
That is a good story, dude. It's so good. Honestly,
It's
it's
so
one of the
good.
best stories. And you know, the only thing that gives it any kind of like validation is the fact that we don't have our full human history, right? We are, I think it's either it's George Knapp or Robert Schock or one of
John
those guys. John Cena. One of these guys. They maybe it's even it's one of these guys. They've said that we're a human species with amnesia, and because we don't know our human history.
You don't know what you don't know.
And I think through this age of disclosure, through this new kind of information that we're getting, we might get closer to connecting these dots, right? We might figure out a little bit more about our human history. We might answer a lot of questions. We might find out a little bit more about ourselves through a lot of this pseudoscience, a lot of what's been going on in this world with the UAP phenomenon, with the government agencies who've been running these 80-year-long legacy program. There might be some correlation and a connection to everything.
Like our house collapsing on top of us.
And, you know, dude, if the house falls apart and we're left buried in the rubble.
If there is a helicopter outside of our house right now,
Oh, dude, I will shit a brick and sell
I'm
it on
gonna
eBay.
flip them off because leave me the fuck alone. What did I do?
I'm going to go out there and say, beam me up, Scotty. Let's go.
I'll start waving my penis at them. You think that'll make them leave?
Do the helicopter with your
I'll
fucking
do the
penis.
helicopter.
They're going to be laughing up there with their fucking sensitive ray guns and shit pointed at you, doing their direct energy blasts.
I mean, if I go out, I'll go out doing what I love, helicoptering.
But the point is, dude, a lot of the shit we've talked about
What
today,
the fuck?
a lot of the shit we've talked about today, you know, is just regurgitated information from people who are of a higher reputation than us, who've put their reputation on the line, put their lives on the line, quit their jobs to talk about this kind of shit.
And you know what? And I want to bring back some of the points that we made in the 3i Atlas episode, to where we talked about the leak of information, the disclosure of information,
Right.
to where how much do we actually get to know?
Right.
Like no, and not
Filtered
just like guess
information.
or speculate. It's like how much do we actually get to enjoy?
What
this
are we allowed to know?
empirical evidence of them being like, okay, here is a recovered body from an unidentified aircraft that no other country could have possibly produced, and a freaking biological specimen that we cannot explain, that we have never seen before.
Right.
Like, how much of that changes like your reality? Because that blows my mind.
To me, dude, it just expands my ever-changing reality as I'm open-minded to all of this kind of shit. You know, I've been exposed to a lot of this stuff for years and years and years, so I'm kind of conditioned to it at this point. Like with the story from
Like
Brazil.
Pavlov's bell.
I don't know
You're
what
like,
that is,
ding,
but
and you're like, it's ready to eat.
but to me, it doesn't really change anything.
That was lost on you.
Yeah, dude.
bro.
It's okay.
Bro. Shame.
But, you know, it's probably lost on a lot of people because this is such a heavy topic, dude. It is
Yes,
so heavy.
But at least everybody should know about Pavlov's bell, which was an experiment he did on like a dog or dogs, to where every time he rang a bell, he conditioned the dog to think that it was getting fed. So anytime a bell was rung, the dog was like, food. And then that translated to a much bigger sort of...
That's just cruel. That's animal cruelty.
Well, it was the sake of an experiment, and that's saying that's like scale. That was the word I was looking for. On a bigger scale, because people can be conditioned
Yes.
too. But
Yes.
that's beside the point. That was beside the point. I had to give you a little Pavlov's bell lesson.
Yeah, man. And how much of, what we know and what we're allowed to know is conditioned information, right?
Ooh, he's saying it.
And it's the kind of shit that a lot of people would reject this topic because they're so far lost in their own sauce that they refuse to accept any new information.
How much do you know about psychological operations?
Dude, I know a little bit about it to the point where it has made me self-aware of what I am aware of.
Isn't it interesting that we get fed these news stories and they kind of tell us who to point our outrage towards?
Right. And if you follow a specific propaganda group, you'll be fed a specific propaganda. With the Charlie Kirk incidents, right?
There's two sides of that.
You
Very
had
clearly, two sides.
Clear sides, and people who had different algorithms were fed different information.
There was one side that wanted to focus heavily on, oh, well, he was a father and his kids could have saw that. And then there's the other side where it's like, this guy was spitting hateful propaganda and was, in conclusion, or what's the word? Collusion?
Collusion, there we go.
Collusion, yeah, with a lot of like hateful rhetoric.
Well, you know what? A lot of this
maybe there's truth to both sides, sure.
Right. But the whole psyop fucking operation there is part of an exploitation of manipulation of the general populace, and I'll liken that to an incident that happened back, I think it was the 50s or maybe the 40s
or maybe the 30s.
Do you remember or you might not know about this, but I
wasn't alive then.
There was a movie that came out. It was called The War of the Worlds, right? Are you familiar with this news?
I was there.
Ladies and gentlemen, he's 100 years old.
No, but that was by Wells, wasn't it?
Wells. Yeah, H.G. Wells wrote the book.
H.G. Wells wrote
the book called
War
of the Worlds, but it was fabricated into a black and white
I'm reading off
film.
your script now.
This is my brain.
In my brain.
Okay. Oh my god.
Oh my god.
He knows too much. Kill him.
Kill him.
But anyways, there was a radio news broadcast promoting this War of the Worlds movie, right? And the way that they did the broadcast was so realistic that many of the citizens who heard the broadcast began to panic because they thought the Earth was being invaded by aliens.
Would you panic? Would you know the difference?
It just depends how well it was done, right? If it was done by a large budget organization and put a lot of thought into to make it seem like it was realistic, then you have Project Bluebeam.
Are you familiar with the Blair Witch Project?
That's totally unrelated.
No, that is completely related.
Tie this in, dude.
Okay,
please.
Because what you are talking about are productions. War of the World was a production, and it convinced people of this sort of thing. And the Blair Witch Project was a production. And one of the ways that they promoted their movie was by distributing VHSs.
Oh, yeah.
All around. Okay. So then people would be like, what is this weird VHS? It looks kind of like weird and cursed. And they put it into their VHS player and they think they're watching an actual documentation of these people just like getting
and they
like
thought it was
up.
real.
And they thought it was real. That's the connection.
Dude, the Blair Witch Project movie is fucking scary. Like, that's one
scary.
of those movies that actually freaks you the fuck out, right? Like, it's not just like a scary movie. It's really fucking scary.
Okay, so now that we have like these different glimpses into realities, right? Realities that there could be extraterrestrial beings.
Right.
So now what about this reality that there could be interdimensional? Would that be it?
Right, but back to, there could be interdimensional beings for sure. Maybe the aliens
we're pulling you off the rails
are
here.
interdimensional, but with the fucking H.G. Wells radio broadcast, it really fucking tripped a lot of people out. And then the government took that data and they calculated it and they realized, hey, look, if our civilization of people were to be exposed to this kind of information, society would collapse.
He wasn't falling for it, listeners. I couldn't get him to talk about some ghosts.
But dude, I fucking love some ghosts, dude. But we mentioned earlier, and you know, this is gonna kind of break the topic, but whatever. I don't want to leave this off the recording because I want to have continuity.
This may be one of our longest episodes ever produced.
That's fine.
And you know what? We have had several people ask for longer form content, so you know what?
Here it is, baby.
You get what you get.
So, at one point, I did actually see a UFO. Have you ever seen a UFO, first and foremost? I would like to ask.
Never. One time I saw like a meteor shower and it freaked me out because it started off as just like a dot and then it turned into like a whole like stream across the sky.
That's crazy.
It was freaky.
I've never seen that many meteors in a meteor shower. I've only seen like a few before in a meteor shower, but to see that many. Have you ever seen the Starry Sky painting? The not the one that
Vincent Van Gogh?
Not the Vincent Van Gogh, but there's a depiction of an actual event that happened where there were so many shooting stars in the sky at one point that happened for like days, and someone painted it. It's crazy. Looked like an apocalyptic scenario. But anyways, I witnessed my own UFO. I was outside smoking some of the devil's lettuce with some friends.
Legally.
Sure. But this is a long time ago. First of all, I can't get in trouble for that.
This was a week ago.
A week ago. Anyways,
I don't know.
We're all sitting outside and we're smoking, and I look up at the stars as I always do.
Because you are a very, what would you call it? Like an externally, an outwardly.
I'm deeply fascinated by what is out in existence. I've always have been, and I was out there with like 5 or 6 other people. We're all standing in a circle, as you would, and we
naturally.
And I look up and I see this one star. It doesn't look like a UFO. It looks like a star, but the star is moving in an erratic kind of movement. It's moving left, right, up, down, back and forth. It's moving in all these like very jittery, this kind of like right angle movements. And I tell everyone else with me, I'm like, hey, check this out. And we all look up at it and we all watch this star kind of like dancing around in the sky, and then it just zips off and disappears. And it's gone.
Unfortunately, the whole basis of your story is destroyed from the premise that you were all smoking.
That's why when at the beginning of this episode I told you, wait till I tell you the story, you might think differently. So that's a detail I couldn't leave out because I'm an honest, truthful person.
And we brought it back around to it.
But my dad's story.
Okay, but your dad, he got abducted and probed.
Let me tell you this story, okay? Oh, I've never forgot this story. And it's one of the craziest UFO stories I've ever heard in my life. So without doxing us in our actual location, I want to ask you.
We are in Mobile, Alabama.
In Mobile, Alabama, you know that Walmart that's kind of nearby our house?
Yeah.
You know that one road that we turn on that has that really bad sharp turn?
Yeah.
Then you turn onto that other road?
Yeah.
Right at that sharp turn.
There's a horse.
There's a house.
A house.
There's a driveway.
I was 1 letter off.
there's a house. There's a house with a driveway.
Look, dude, I could be a psychic. Dude, I could be a remote viewer.
Maybe.
You saw how close I was? Dude, 1 out of fucking 5. That's...
Oh, you were there, dude. You were there.
Dude, I'm remote viewing this. Hold on. Keep going. I'm remote viewing it.
Okay, so remote view this bullshit. You know that turn.
Ouch.
That has a name that's called Norton.
Shut up.
We're not doxing us, but that road Norton right there, right? That goes to that Walmart. That house right there.
Not horse.
That house, the first house on the right. My dad grew up on the street we live on right now. And he said in his craziest UFO experience, him and his friends, they knew somebody who lived in that house, and they were driving home one day, and a UFO appeared in the sky above them, and it was huge. He said it was massive. It was like the size of a skyscraper. And he was like, we were freaking out, so we pulled off at my friend's house, and we went inside that house that's on that road right there, and we tried to wait out this object in the sky. And he said this beam of light shot down around the house, engulfed the whole house, and the whole house started to shake. Windows were shaking,
What the
pictures
fuck?
were shaking,
What?
everything around them was shaking and falling off the walls. And he was like, they were
experienced
freaking
an
the fuck out. They didn't know what to do.
Earthquake, an undocumented, localized earthquake.
With a light and an object in the sky?
Well, they was a part of some testing, right?
Oh, God, dude.
Oh shit! I broke it. I
Oh
broke
my
it open.
God, dude. The aliens are onto us.
I fucking broke it open. The CIA's about to bust down my door.
But that's his story, and
You're sticking to it.
That stuck to me, and I was like, how do you make that up? Like, that's just too detailed, right? And
Okay, so I would love to gather a compilation of like other people's stories too, to where they have experienced weird stuff like that, because that seems like, why would they get targeted?
Right.
Why would they be of such importance to this freaking being, to
Who
this
knows,
like
man?
immense technology, where they're just like, yeah, we're gonna fuck with this guy. We're gonna fuck with this guy so hard.
You're a random beetle out in the Amazon forest, and some crazy scientist scoops you up.
Oh yeah, like we ain't ever set some ants
Right.
on fire with a magnifying glass.
What significance is that random beetle to that scientist?
Motherfucker, damn you. Because
Right.
that's some good logic, because you
Right.
know what, we have, I mean, everything scales down, doesn't it?
Right.
The analogy with the fish,
Right.
that is how I have always thought of things, because
Right.
as a fish, dolphin, mammal, whatever, they live in water and they can see water, and they're in that existence, like that plane of existence. And then you kind of scale it up, right? Because air is less dense than water. So I imagine the beings that exist beyond us are in something less dense than air, but exist in it.
Right.
Or at least have a better understanding, or like
Right.
some sort of
Dude,
like
there's
evolutionary.
a law against us like communicating with dolphins. I don't know if you knew that or not, but
a law?
law. We are not allowed to communicate with dolphins.
Like the government said you can't.
You can't do it. You're
All
not
right.
allowed to communicate with dolphins.
So if I ran out to the ocean today and I was like,
You'd be breaking the law.
if
You'd
I
go
was
to
like,
jail.
if I was like, fuck you, dolphins.
Fuck you, dolphin. And they'd be like, me. Fuck you, Jerry. But anyways, the point that I'm getting at here.
Look, full disclosure, full disclaimer. We here at the Base Banter Podcast, we love dolphins, and if you
I love dolphins.
if you have ever eaten tuna, you may have eaten a dolphin.
Dude, have you heard of that story about the woman who lived in an enclosure with a dolphin?
Did she get raped?
Bro, it's crazier than
Was that it? It's
It's
crazier than to get raped by a fucking
crazier
dolphin.
than that. She would give the dolphin hand jobs. And the dolphin...
I mean, as one naturally does, yeah.
Fucking crazy story, dude.
When you love a dolphin, there's
Dude.
nothing you won't do.
The people who were running these tests were realizing her fucking relationship with the dolphin was getting out of hand. They took her out of the enclosure, and the dolphin got severely depressed because, you know, he wasn't getting these
He
hand
wasn't
jobs.
being able to get off.
And the dolphin killed itself. Yeah. But
So
anyways,
does that mean-
that's not relative to
Okay,
the topic
yeah, you know what?
at all.
That's not where
We're
aliens come from at all.
diverging way off topic.
That's not where aliens come from.
Oh, look, somehow we've gone so far off the rails. I want to reel this back in, and I want to kind of go back onto the importance of this topic and this topic of disclosure.
What does it fucking mean?
What does it mean?
What do the numbers mean, Mason?
What do the numbers mean, Mason?
I mean, I've drawn on that well twice now, so
Right, we're at this point where, like,
full on Black Ops.
the point is, dude, we're going to revisit this topic. We're going to revisit some of the topics I mentioned earlier, like the Betty and Barney Hill story, right, where they got abducted. And then the Travis Waltman story, where he was abducted and was missing for 5 days. And his friends were having to provide a lie detector testimony stating what they saw and what happened, and how Travis Waltman said he was taken aboard a spacecraft and they repaired him. And
we're also going to talk about Walter White and how his battle with cancer led him to very dark places. We're also going to talk about...
These are the stories that are gripping, and AMC wants you to click on their shit and watch. But, you know, the conversation's going to keep going, and we can keep this conversation going forever and ever and ever.
And this is a great conversation, because what does it mean? As I have said,
what does it mean, Mason? What do the numbers mean?
What do the numbers mean? Like, there's more than us?
There's more than us. One. What does it mean, Jerry?
And then you were trying to say that.
No, Jerry, no.
No.
You want me to tell you what it means?
Yes.
It means we're not alone in this universe. If you watch the Age of Disclosure documentary, you'll see a lot of reputable people saying the same thing.
Thanks.
We're not alone. So, with that being said, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, and ducks, we are not alone in this universe, dude.
And equestrians.
So, I know you want to keep this conversation going. I want to keep it going, but we do have to wrap this up. We have to find some kind of conclusion, and the conclusion is that we're not alone. That this is an ever-changing information war.
Hey, and I have the most ultimate, most beautiful takeaway from this that I have ever...
Please, give us your takeaway.
Constructed. So, for all of the people that feel lonely, like they are just absolutely alone.
Oh, you got aliens.
No.
You've got AIDS.
No, sometimes. Sometimes you do. But... you never know when somebody could be remote viewing you. We touched on fucking psychics today, too.
You're not alone, dude. Somebody could be watching you now.
Somebody could want to look in.
How special do you got to be to have someone with superpowers watch you?
I mean, you have to be the most loneliest virgin of all time, right?
Of all time, dude.
So if you are the most loneliest virgin, and you listen to this podcast, dude, what the fuck is up? You're going to be visited soon, or you are already on a watch list.
And stay tuned for our remote viewing episode, because, dude, we're going to dive into that at some point, and it's going to be a juicy one.
And I am going to find all of the evidence that goes against that, because you know what, buddy?
Hey,
I'm going to be your adversary in that episode.
Hal Puthoff did some work with the U.S. government and the CIA as they were spending millions of dollars on a government blacklisted budget to try to keep up with the Russians when it comes to this remote viewing topic. So
okay,
please
and you know how much misinformation, disinformation the government would like to put out to let everybody know how much further ahead than they are, like in the space race, like in all these different instances where we were racing and competing with other countries to where we lied to say about how far we was. Like, how do you know he wasn't lying?
Hey, man, all I gotta tell you is with my own anecdotal evidence, I was able to tap into some kind of shit, and I was able to receive information, and I was able, through my own experience, predict accurately exact data and exact instances that would happen. So, yeah, you might be able to, with your own clouded judgment, disprove, but I'll have my own unclouded, unfogged lens to prove it.
With my own anecdotal evidence.
Yin and yang, buddy.
With my own anecdotal evidence, man. I can tell you and every single one of our listeners, that's going to be a banger of an episode. Look, he psychically smacked my microphone down.
My telekinesis powers are over 9,000.
Okay, guys, buddy, that seems like a good point. So
right.
So bring it home.
Okay, look, everybody, if you want to weigh in, give us some of your UFO stories. Send us some of your unexplainable events that have happened to you. Tell us something weird that's happened in your life. weigh in on this topic, because this is a conversation that needs to keep going. The general populace needs to talk about this, because it is our responsibility as a human race to make sure that the government cannot shut us up. They can't keep us quiet. We have to make this shit known. The most important thing that I will say tonight is that we cannot go quietly in the dark. We have to make ourselves loud. We have to talk about this shit. It is our responsibility. It is your responsibility to go to the Base Banter Podcast at Gmail and send us your comments. To go to the Base Banter Podcast on Facebook. Tell us what you think. Go to our Instagram at Base Banter Podcast and check out our pictures and our stories we release there. And find us on our Discord when it is released soon. And if you want to find me on my Twitch, it is Arcano Joe. Talk to me there. We will share some topics and discussions as well. And if you want to, find Jerry on Jerry Contrite on Instagram as well. And as always, this has been the Base Banter Podcast. Jerry, if you have anything else you want to share it now or forever hold your peace.
We have to advance way faster and quicker than any dolphin and any equestrian. So, until the next time.
Peace.